You know, often when we think about worship, we think about music, or maybe even the way that we open our hearts to receive the Word of God when it's taught or preached. But you know that giving is also an act of worship. And in previous videos, I've talked to you about how we're going to take a look at the spiritual and biblical aspects of giving. We don't want the offering time just to be a time when the offering plate goes down the aisle and you participate that way. We want it to be a time when you continue to worship. So with that in mind, I'd like to share with you that there are, in my opinion, 5 biblical motivations to give. The first one is, I want to do my part. When I was a kid, I used to watch a show called The Waltons. Many of you may be old enough to remember that, or maybe you've seen it on TV land. But anyway, on The Waltons, there are several generations of this big family that live in this big house. And sometimes when I think of the church, I kind of picture it like that. Multi-generations living in the house of God. We are a spiritual family. But at this level of giving, we have to begin to think about the needs of the house of God. This is the place where you're fed. This is a place where you're taken care of. There's a dining room. That's perhaps where you're sitting right now, a place where the bread of life is served. And there's utility hookups so that you're comfortable when you come to the house of God. And then there's those always important repairs that come along every little bit, especially lately. At this first level of giving, a person begins to look around them and understand that, hey, I'm a part of this household, and this household has needs, and I'm going to help support it.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Bob.